The first whisper of something wrong did not come as a scream. It came quietly, like a shadow stretching just a little too far across the floor.
I can't
Amara
believe
felt
you
it
would
before
betray
she
me like this.
understood it,
Get
a
out!
tightening in her chest as the plane touched
Just let
down
me
hours
explain, Kat.
earlier than expected. She had imagined this moment so many times during those long nights abroad, working double shifts, saving every possible coin, believing she was building something solid, something unbreakable, a home, a future, a marriage rooted in trust. But as she stood outside the gate of her own house, suitcase still in hand, there was a silence that did not belong. No laughter, no anticipation, no warmth waiting to greet her, only stillness, heavy, unwelcoming, watching. The door was not locked. That alone was enough to make her hesitate. Her husband Daniel had always been meticulous about security. He insisted on it, said it made him feel in control. So why now did the door yield so easily beneath her fingers? It creaked open slowly, revealing a home that looked familiar but felt altered. The air smelled different, not unpleasant, just unfamiliar, like someone had rearranged the soul of the place. Her steps were cautious, each one echoing louder than it should. Then she heard it laughter, soft at first, then unmistakable. A woman's laughter, intimate, comfortable, belonging. Her heartbeat stumbled. It could not be what she feared. It simply could not. But the closer she moved toward the source, the more that fragile denial began to crack. The living room lights were dim, golden, almost romantic. And there, sitting on the couch that she had chosen, the one she had insisted on buying before she left, were two figures, Daniel and her sister, Lila. They sat close, too close, his arm draped around her shoulders with an ease that spoke of habit, not accident. Lila's head leaned gently against him, her laughter fading as she noticed Amara standing at the doorway. Time did not stop. It fractured. The moment stretched, distorted, unbearable. Daniel's smile vanished first, then confusion, then something darker, guilt. Lila's face followed, her expression draining of color, her lips parting as if to speak, but no words came. And Amara, she stood frozen, her suitcase slipping from her fingers, hitting the floor with a dull, final thud that seemed to echo through every lie that had been built in her absence. No one spoke immediately, because what words could possibly exist in a moment like this? What language could bridge betrayal so complete it rewrote reality itself? Amara's voice, when it finally came, was not loud. It was quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that carries something far more dangerous than anger. What is this? The question hung in the air, trembling. Daniel stood up too quickly, his movements clumsy, defensive. Amara, you're back early. But she raised her hand, not in violence, in refusal. Don't, she said, her voice steadier now, though her eyes shimmered with something raw and breaking. Don't lie first. Not after this. Lila slowly rose to her feet as well, her gaze unable to meet Amara's. The sister who once braided her hair, the sister who held her hand through childhood fears, the sister who now stood in her place, wearing her trust like stolen jewelry. Amara, I can explain. Can you? The question cut deeper than any shout. And that was when the truth began to unravel. Not in a single confession, but in fragments, glances, silences. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, pacing now, as if movement could somehow rearrange the consequences closing in around him. It's not what you think. Amara almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so painfully predictable. Then tell me what I'm supposed to think, she said, her voice trembling now, the first crack in her composure. Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like what it is. Lila finally spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. It, it just happened. Amara turned to her slowly. That phrase, that careless, cowardly phrase. Nothing just happens, Lila, she said. Not this, not betrayal. And suddenly, memories began to resurface. Small things she had ignored, late replies to messages, Daniel sounding distracted during calls, Lila visiting more often than usual before Amara left. The pieces had always been there. She had simply chosen not to see them. Because trust often blinds before it protects. How long? Amara asked, her voice hollow now. Neither of them answered immediately, and that silence told her everything she needed to know. How long? She repeated louder this time. Daniel exhaled slowly. 6 months. 6 months. Half a year. Half the time she had been gone. Half the time she had been sacrificing, believing she was doing it for them. The room seemed to tilt. Amara steadied herself against the wall, her breathing shallow. So while I was working, while I was sending money, while I was trusting you, she looked at Lila. You were here, in my home, in my life. Lila's tears began to fall, but Amara did not move to comfort her. Not this time. We didn't mean for it to go this far, Daniel said quickly. We tried to stop, but you didn't. Silence again. The truth, now undeniable, stood between them like a wall that could never be crossed again. And then came the final blow, the one that shattered what little remained. Lila hesitated before speaking, as if she knew the weight of what she was about to say. We got married. The words did not land immediately. They hovered, suspended, unbelievable. What? Amara whispered. Daniel closed his eyes briefly, as if bracing for impact. It happened last month. Married. While she was still his wife. While her money, her sacrifices, had been funding their life, their wedding, their betrayal. Amara felt something inside her shift. Not break, not collapse, transform. The pain did not disappear, but it hardened, became something sharper, clearer. You used my money, she said slowly, her gaze locking onto Daniel's. Didn't you? He did not answer. It didn't need to. And that was when Amara straightened, fully, completely. The trembling stopped. The tears receded. In their place rose something far more dangerous than grief. Resolve. All right, she said quietly. Now I understand. Daniel looked at her confused. Understand what? Amara picked up her suitcase again, her movements deliberate, controlled. I understand who you both are. She paused at the doorway, turning back one last time. Her eyes, though no longer wet, carried a depth neither of them could face. And I understand what needs to happen next. And with that, she walked out, not defeated, not broken, but changed. Because some betrayals do not destroy you, they reveal you. And what Amara would become next, neither Daniel nor Lila were prepared for. The door closed behind Amara with a soft click, but the sound echoed like something final. Not just an exit, but an ending. The night air outside felt colder than it should have, pressing against her skin as if the world itself had shifted while she was gone. She stood there for a moment, unmoving, her suitcase beside her, her breath uneven, but her eyes steady, too steady, because something inside her had already begun to change. Inside the house, Daniel and Lila remained frozen, as though movement might make everything worse, but the damage was already done. The truth had been spoken, and truth, once exposed, does not go back into hiding. Amara did not cry as she walked away. Not that night, not the next morning, not even when she checked into a small hotel room, alone, surrounded by silence that no longer comforted her. Instead, she thought, and the more she thought, the clearer everything became. The late messages, the forced smiles, the way Danielle had started calling less, the way Lila had become too present, too involved, too comfortable. It had not been sudden. It had been built quietly, deliberately, behind her back. And worse than the betrayal was the realization that she had funded it. Every long shift, every sacrifice, every lonely night abroad. She had been building their life, not hers, theirs, and that truth settled heavily in her chest. But Imara was not weak. She had never been weak. She had simply been trusting. And now she was awake. The next morning, she did something unexpected. She didn't call them. She didn't argue. She didn't beg for explanations that no longer mattered. Instead, she called a lawyer because betrayal may break the heart, but it sharpens the mind. Days passed, then weeks, and slowly, the balance of power began to shift. Daniel, who had once been so confident, so in control, began to feel something unfamiliar, unease, because Amara had not come back. She had not fought. She had not even raised her voice. And that silence was louder than any confrontation. Why isn't she reacting? Lila asked one evening, her voice laced with anxiety as she paced the living room. Daniel didn't answer immediately because he didn't know, and that frightened him. Then the first letter arrived, formal, cold, precise, legal action. Lila read it twice, her hands trembling. She's she's taking everything back because the house was in Amara's name. The accounts funded by her earnings, even the business Danielle claimed to manage, registered under her. Piece by piece, the illusion of their new life began to crumble. You said everything was fine, Lila snapped, panic creeping into her voice. It was, Daniel shot back. She never questioned anything, but that was the problem. Amara had trusted, and now she didn't. And a woman who has nothing left to lose is not someone you can control. Within a month, everything changed. The house was no longer theirs. The accounts were frozen. The comfort they had built using a sacrifice began slipping through their fingers. Arguments replaced laughter. Blame replaced affection. And slowly, the cracks between them widened. You said you loved me, Lila whispered one night, her voice breaking. Daniel looked at her, but something had shifted because love built on betrayal does not survive pressure. I did, he said, but even he could hear it. Past tense. Meanwhile, Amara stood in a different place entirely, not just physically, but emotionally. She had rebuilt her life piece by piece, found her strength not in revenge, but in clarity. She did not need to destroy them because they were already doing that themselves. The final moment came quietly. A court decision, clean, undeniable. Everything returned to its rightful owner. Amara did not attend in person. She didn't need to, because closure is not always about witnessing the fall. Sometimes it's about walking away before it happens. And Daniel, he lost everything, not just the house, not just the money, but the one person who had truly believed in him. And Lila, she learned the truth too late, that what you take from someone else's life will never truly belong to you. As for Amara, she didn't look back because some chapters are not meant to be revisited, only remembered for the lesson they leave behind. And if there is one thing this story proves, it is this: betrayal may feel like the end, but sometimes it is only the beginning of becoming who you were always meant to be. Amara didn't cry when she walked out. That was the first thing that changed. Not the betrayal, not the truth. Her. Because somewhere between the shock and the silence, something inside her had hardened. By morning, she understood everything: the late calls, the distance, the way her sister had slowly taken her place. Not suddenly, but step by step, while she was gone, working, sacrificing, sending money. Money they had used together. So Amara made a decision not to fight, not to beg, but to think, and then to act. She called a lawyer. Days passed, then weeks, and the silence began to haunt them. Why isn't she reacting? Lila asked one night, her voice unsteady. Danielle had no answer because deep down, he knew this wasn't weakness, this was control. Then the letter came. Legal action. Everything began to unravel. The house in Amara's name. The money, hers. Even the life they were living wasn't theirs to keep. Panic set in. You said everything was fine. Lila snapped. She never questioned it. Daniel replied. And that was the problem. She had trusted them, and now she didn't. Within weeks, everything changed. The house slipped away, the money disappeared, and the love that once felt so certain began to crack under pressure. You said you loved me, Lila whispered. Daniel hesitated. I did. Past tense. That was when it ended. Not with a fight, but with truth. Amara never returned. She didn't need to. The court ruled in her favor. Everything restored, everything reclaimed. But more importantly, she walked away with something they never would: peace. Because betrayal doesn't just destroy, it reveals. And sometimes, losing everything is the only way others realize it was never theirs to begin with. Amara knew something was wrong the moment she walked in, not because of what she saw, but because of what she felt. Silence, where there should have been warmth. Distance, in a place she once called home. And then she saw them, her husband, her sister, together, too close, too comfortable, too familiar. The truth didn't explode. It settled, heavy, cold, fining. How long? She asked. 6 months, Daniel said. 6 months of lies. Why she worked abroad, why she sent money, why she trusted them. Then came the final blow. We got married, Lila whispered. And just like that, everything ended. Amara didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't fight. She walked away. Because some betrayals don't deserve emotion, they deserve distance. The next day, she called a lawyer, not out of revenge, but clarity. Days passed, then the letter arrived, and everything changed. The house, hers. The money, hers. The life they were living, never theirs to begin with. Panic replaced comfort. You said we were safe, Lila cried. She never questioned anything, Dania snapped. Exactly. She trusted them. And now she didn't. Within weeks, everything collapsed. No house, no money, no peace, and the love they thought was real cracked under pressure. You said you loved me, Lila whispered. Daniel paused. I did. Past tense. That's when she understood. What begins in betrayal ends in loss. As for Amara, she never looked back. The court ruled in her favor. Everything returned, but she had already moved on. Because she didn't just lose a husband or a sister, she lost an illusion. And in its place, she found herself stronger, clearer, untouchable. Because betrayal doesn't break you, it reveals who was never meant to stay. Amara came home early. She didn't expect silence. She didn't expect distance. She didn't expect them, her husband, her sister, together. One glance was enough. How long? She asked. 6 months. 6 months? Why she worked abroad? Why she sent money? Why she trusted them? Then we got married. That was it. No shouting, no tears, just the end. Amara walked away because some betrayals don't deserve a reaction. They deserve a response. The next day, she called a lawyer. Days later, the truth hit them. The house, hers. The money, hers. Everything they had built, never theirs. Panic replaced comfort. You said we were safe. She trusted us. Exactly. She trusted them. And now, she didn't. Within weeks, everything collapsed. No house, no money, no peace. And their love, it didn't survive. You said you loved me. I did. Past tense. That's how it ends. Not with love, but with truth. As for Amara, she never came back. She didn't need to. The court gave her everything, but she had already taken back something more important: control. Because betrayal doesn't destroy you, it reveals you. And sometimes walking away is the real victory.